It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome one and all, it's time for yet another spicy, succulent, tender, moist, dishlicious, finger-licking good episode of the Andy and Rem Show. Episode 182. So for anyone who found Remington's blinds, it may get easier this game over the next few minutes as it gets much darker. So let's remove the thumbnail, and there he is, almost perfectly lined up in his little box in the corner. Hello, Mr. Remington, how are you?
Hello, Mr. Andy, 2D6. I'm very good, thank you. A little bit, been a very, very busy few weeks, as it possibly is for many of you out there. But hey, we're here, giving you more Age of Sigmar goodness. Got lots to talk about, Andy. There's so much going on, man. So much mayhem on the YouTube. There's so many YouTubers damning Games Workshop and all sorts of chaos going on.
A lot
What on earth?
of spice was unleashed. A lot of it centered around Warhammer Day, which took place days ago. Lots to analyse from that. But first of all, what have we been up to in the last week?
Well, I didn't get the game in with you that I wanted to because I was just too busy. But I did get a couple of hours to, apart from one pot grot, I've completed my Cruel Boys painting.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes, I've completed painting all my Cruel Boys army. I don't know if it's enough for like a legit force yet. I might need a few more, battle line models, I guess. But I think maybe a few more gut rippers or, the guys with the crossbows. Can't remember what they're called, but yeah, I got some photos to show you of that, so that's kind of cool. And so I'm looking forward to playing with those, especially because the Cruel Boys have this auto mortal wounding on a 6, which is it's good news when you're fighting Stormcast, right? Mortal wounds.
Yeah, I don't like the sound of that. So while you've been feverishly painting away, I've also been painting, and I don't know if you can actually see whether any progress has been made on these things. But if we look at this gun hauler, for example, see that it's all nicely base coated up. All the base coats are actually in the right place now, I think. All that's required, a bit of neatening up of the base coats, and then it's time for washes and highlights. So we're almost to the stage where things start looking good.
Is it sprayed or did you paint it?
It has some spraying involved, but only in the priming stage. And I've also got all the regular dudes as well. Loads of those being worked on at the same time. So
was that your ironclad model, Andy? Was that the big mothership?
No, this one's much smaller. I haven't even opened the ironclad yet. I'm not allowed to start assembling the ironclad until all these are done. However, I did allow myself a small break to assemble this bad boy, also known as the Bane of Remington.
It's a cool model.
It's a very cool model. And I wasn't sure which pose to use, actually, because you get two options. He's got two little sprues in there, which is probably why he's so expensive. He's got one where he's holding the hammer in front of him, and the one where he's holding it off to the side like this. And I thought, whenever the models have the hammers in front of them, it tends to be more of a pain to get the paintbrush between the armour and the weapon. So I thought I'll have it by his side.
I can feel you.
We'll see how that goes.
It looks like he's going to have problems with his wrist as he grows older, because holding a hammer of that size and I imagine of that weight is going to cause you extensive damage there.
But he is magically imbued with Sigmar's lightning, so I don't know whether wrist problems are among their concerns. Maybe Stormcast that have been around for a very long time can report back to Sigmar on what ailments they start to suffer from over time. Anyone in the chat got any ideas about ailments that Stormcast Eternals might suffer from the longer their soul is within the same body?
I mean, do they ever take off their armor? Because just to do like natural functions and stuff. I mean,
I would assume they do. Anyone who's read any Stormcast novels, maybe, where they're not just fighting and smashing faces in. Anywhere they're just relaxing in the hot tub.
They must stink pretty bad. I mean, wearing that big armor. I mean, I'm reading some Age of Sigmar books where like they're going through, you know, forests, fighting Sylvaneth, fighting, you know, Nighthorn, and you know they've got round the campfire and they're hunting for food, and then you know what I mean. And like they just seem to be wearing their golden armor all day and night. I mean, just sounds a bit like really. When you want to just take that off for a bit.
Owen says, Stormcast suffer from turning into Frostgrave statues on my table.
Yeah.
So someone who maybe doesn't play Age of Sigmar and just uses them as terrain instead, by the sounds of it.
And wouldn't it be nicer if you had a few Sigmar warriors, but then you had like squires, you know, that would help take off their armor? You know what I mean? Like Bretonian style.
That would
seem
nice.
to make sense.
But comment here. Have you guys taken an interest or will try in the future speed paints? Now I've heard of them, I can't remember which brand it is, but they're supposed to be like contrast paint. People reviewing them that I've seen have mostly said that they're very similar but not quite as good contrast. So...
Well, we're apparently not quite as good as other channels, so maybe Speed Paints and the Andy and Rem show can team up for a collab, you know?
Maybe they could. Which brand are they? Someone remind me. Army Painter. Yeah, I have got a few Army Painter paints, actually. Not too many, but I've got a handful of them. Mostly
Army Painter brushes?
Yeah, the brushes, definitely. I've got some of those. When I'm not using the cheap, like random, like pack of 8 paintbrushes, like these. So, let's dive into Warhammer Day, shall we?
Let's do it, Andy. So, what were you expecting out there? What were people expecting? Were they expecting some like new army reveal? Were they expecting what's the because feels like people were expecting a heck of a lot. And if you didn't know, we have just come off the back of a huge once in 100-year pandemic crisis, and one of the results of that are huge supply issues, as well as Brexit, as supply chain issues. And Warhammer, when they release stuff, they like to synchronize the release across the world, right? So people in various territories are getting access to new releases at the same time. So you can see that there's obviously huge problems, and it's not just Games Workshop. There's problems within many industries that involve the moving of physical products.
I think if you combine that, all those issues that you just mentioned, with the fact that GW are showing off things way in advance now, whereas before it was just when it was released, that was the first you saw of it. Apart from a grainy picture you would see a week before that someone had taken from a preview copy of White Dwarf sneakily put it online. Because now if this Warhammer Day was done like the old days, where you just see a lot new stuff in one fell swoop instead of it being dribbled in over time, you would maybe see the Stormcast dragons here, but we've already seen them months in advance. So I think it could be a symptom of that as well. So not too much new stuff to sink our teeth into because we've already seen so much.
I think, Andy, and this is a very important point because I teach sort of young people as part of my job, that we're in a society where people want instant now. I've seen it, so I want it. Why haven't I got it today? And of course, us being longbeards, we're very used to seeing not a lot for ages. Like, you know, new stuff come out. It takes very slow, especially with Warhammer 8th edition, right? And I think people have gotten used to just like a rainpour of new stuff coming and being available, and I'm just in a time when that it just isn't possible. So Games Workshop have been obviously trying, and they've shown us everything they want to put out, but they just haven't been able to. So there's a lot of moaning going on, and it's doing my head in, to be honest.
Well, let's have a look at some of the stuff then. So, first of all, new for Blood Bowl, Dungeon Bowl is back, which I don't really remember in the first place, but I'm sure it was a thing. If they're saying it's back, Blood Bowl in a dungeon, which kind of cool if you already play Blood Bowl.
You can see there the pitch, let's call it the pitch, is totally different, isn't it? It's
yes,
looking at sort of catacombs-ish kind of vibe.
Fighting the ball from one end of the dungeon to the other.
That's kind of strange, I guess, because like the ball's in one place, but your players could be in a different room.
Yes.
And so they might be just blocking escapes and entrances instead.
So the teams are also mixed. So you don't just have a Skaven team and an Elf team. See here, you've got a Skaven and Elf team.
But these are models that have already come out, right? And they're just mixing the packs up a bit.
I don't know. But
well, I recognise the
it looks like
ones,
it, because I recognise some of these dwarves, so it certainly looks that way.
Now, if you're assembling like a best-of team, would you include 3 snotlings?
It depends what you're planning to use them for. If you want your other players to throw the snotling who is holding the ball, then maybe. You're going to get pretty good distance on a thrown snotling, aren't you?
I think, look at this. It's quite a historic collaboration between dwarves and goblinoids.
Pretty cool, but I don't think I'm going to be dabbling in it because else plates at them.
Yeah, I did have an idea. Obviously a lot of the ogre models are really old, so I had an idea when I did have an ogre army is to use these Blood Bowl ogres and sort of convert them, into ogre balls or man-eaters or something, but I don't know, I never got around to it.
By the way, anyone who's watching this right now hasn't liked what are you doing with your life?
And that's the point. I'm going to like the video. Is that allowed?
Yeah.
There we go. Got 3 likes now.
So next, Nurgle, Maggotkin. That's the next. That's the new battle tone we're getting, and we've only seen evidence of a single new model though. So we'll look at that in a moment. Maggotkin of Nurgle. You dabbled into Nurgle at all during your time?
I never have. I did buy some. I can't remember the company name, but they did Chaos Warriors, but they were like Plague Warriors, and I just remember being really disappointed when I got the box. There was just like 50 different head options, and it was just a bit of a mess. I painted a couple, and they looked all right, but then I don't know. I didn't push on with it. But then the last round of Nurgle stuff that came out, of course, the big one was when they had the Blight Kings, right, and the ones on the flies.
Big Glotkin and all that, yeah.
Yeah, that was like end times stuff, wasn't it? So that would have been 2014, I want to say.
Around there, not far off.
And then the last thing we had was that guy on the snail. Right? Do you remember that one? On a slug snail.
Yes, what was his name? What was Snaily Dude's name?
Was there a bile? Was there a bile in the name? Or was that Sloppity?
I remember Sloppity Bilepiper's name. I don't remember the Snaily Dude's name.
Well,
someone will know it in the chat. Someone tell us. What was his name?
Yeah, there was a herald, wasn't there? And then there was Sloppity. So there was a couple of new Nurgle sort of plague bearer models. What we haven't seen is like many human Nurgle characters, right? I guess humanoid ones.
They've got a decent-ish range, though, haven't they, Nurgle already? So this is the kind of army where I think they've got it kind of enough variety, so you can just sprinkle in heroes now and then. Since they've been around for so long, they have got a bit of a range.
And they did get the scenery. They did get the Nurgle fetid trees, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah, Beast of Nurgle. Hi, Owen. Yeah, the Beast of Nurgle. I didn't think that was a great model myself. I liked his smile. And now we've got this one, and this looks pretty awesome. What do you like best, the fly head or the cowled head?
I like the fly head. It reminds me of at the end of The Fly, the film.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Well, Will Matthews has come out the shadows as he does with with golden bullets there. It was Horticulus Slimux was the guy on the snail. So there.
So we've got a sorcerer who looks nice and nurgly as usual, as you'd expect. I'm not sure about the pose where he's holding this scythe. It looks kind of weird to me.
Yeah, he's just sort of like he's about to sort of fall apart, isn't he? Almost, you know.
Yeah, if it was just a staff, that would be a pose that I would approve. But I think because it's got the massive blade on it as well, it looks like an odd way to wield a weapon.
He doesn't look like he would be a real deft with that weapon, does he? It looks like all he'll do really is just like, kind of like let it fall on your head.
It reminds me, back in the day on Robot Wars, when the robots would have these really impressive looking big axe heads, and then they'd just like go boonk and just blink off anything that they hit and never got through the armor. It reminds me of something like that.
I can't see Nurgle creatures and warriors being very dexterous. I think they just rely on, they can't really be hurt. They can't really be stopped very easily. And I think that they're an army, aren't they? They're very much an anvil type army. Yes. But the more I look at it, the more you think they actually have got quite a big range. When you compare it to some of the new factions, right?
Compared to the new stuff, they definitely have. Although the Beast of Nurgle is pretty awful. That's it there, isn't it?
But it's still an option, right? Obviously what we're saying we haven't got is mortal. We haven't got mortal Nurgle really come out. They're all like demonoids, I guess. But yeah, you got the greater demons there, right? You've got the plague ones. What do I know? I guess we'd have to ask a player.
Another thing I would say about Nurgle as well, if you don't like any of the models, then they're probably the easiest. Just make your own. You take any model, make some green stuff balls, cut them in half, plop them all over it, and you've got pustules. Can't get much easier for a conversion than that, can you?
Yeah. I mean, of course, you got a lot of characters in there. You got the Glotkin. Who were the three characters on the separate sort of big monsters, and one of them sort of spitting out spear? I can't remember. You remember? I mean, it was in one of the former pictures.
This one here, the Glotkin.
Not the Glotkin. The one on the left.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I see the one. I don't remember what that one was called, but yes.
Come on, Will, help us out. What are they called again, man? Can't remember. I remember when they come out, but it was one box, and you could make 3 options of 3. That's it. Oh no, Pestigore Beastman. So Will's saying they need some cultists, plague flagellants, and Pestigore, the Magathlords. That was it, the Magathlords. Thanks, man. Yeah, the Magathlords. They were quite cool.
Some plague flagellants would be good, and you could see them matching up with this guy, with him leading them into battle. That would be quite nice, wouldn't it? You could easily convert the regular flagellants into Nurgle, though, couldn't you?
I mean, I think like the Sylvaneth, you'd think Nurgle would be really kind of allergic to fire, wouldn't you? Because, I mean, how do you deal with the plague, right? It's obviously shutting people away and not coming into contact, but it's also you burn it away with purifying fire. So, I mean, does Nurgle have a weakness to that? Do you think they should?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Fire does. It is the great purifier, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we've got one new miniature, 2 options there. We've got a new book. Doesn't look like there's any new models. Are you sad?
And if you would think if there were going to be more, they would show us, wouldn't you?
They would hint at it. They usually did in the past.
We'll see. There may be a little bit more coming for them as well. It depends how far away the book is.
All right, so we got a new book then. I guess that's going to make people happy. Or they've
put the new model right on the cover of the book, obviously, which suggests that guy is the centerpiece of the new Not even a new range, just a new him. Centerpiece of himself. Next. So, Warcry. Now, we saw Mr. Spidery Dude a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we've got more now. We can actually see the full set that he comes in.
Yeah.
So, the Tarantulos brood worship chaos as a bloated 8-limbed spider. So there's him with his Warcry stats. And I don't really know the rules for this game, so that doesn't mean much to me. But look, we've got spiders.
Okay. I didn't see them before. Swarms, spider swarms, right? Oh, so the question is, like, and I've been asking it for weeks. Why wasn't this a Gloom Spike Gits sort of, edition?
Well, they give all the cool things to ride on to Stormcast, and they give all the cool things to be a mutant with the Chaos.
Well, this is a cool model. I like this one. The spider lady with a whip. Looks cool.
It's a bit of a spider mask going on there. No additional limbs. And see more of the faction there. And you can see what they're up against, which comes up more in the next article. Because the Red Harvest, what it's called. So, what do you think of this piece of artwork? Because I think that hero on the left there is very reminiscent of classic Hero Quest style art.
I love the barbarians, man. I really like the barbarians. I kind of just wish they were not chaos, but they are. I still like them. I mean, I am toying with the idea in my head, Andy, of having an army of marauders. Like what are they called? The tribe of this. What are they called? Mine's gone blank tonight.
Let's have a look. So let's have a look at the full spidery range that they're showing us first. So we've got some sneaky looking ones with looks like spider legs coming out the back of their head. Cool.
Yeah, the extra limbs don't look long enough to be actually useful.
No, they look purely decorative, I think.
Yeah, I have a decorative claw. Yeah.
Bit of spider web situation going on the back of the head there as well. So these are clearly at the lower end of the chaos favour, where they're just literally slapping things on themselves so they look a bit like a spider, hoping that chaos will notice them.
Do you think a blessing of chaos could be like they secrete web fluid or something?
Not.
Or do they just get given extra hairy limbs? Well, that guy's doing something with some webbing there.
Bit of a net web situation there. Is that a weird long toe spawned there, or is he just standing on a vine? I don't know.
Is he holding a web encrusted club?
That's all of them. So, kind of cool. And if you have the one kind of more generic looking barbarian faction, it's okay for them to go up against a slightly more out there group, I think. It's usually a cool combo. Now, this is what you're interested in, obviously.
It's the Dark Oath. That's it, the Dark Oath.
So,
I love these.
Let's get.
Yeah, these look amazing. I love these guys. Look at that. I want to get a Dark Oath army, man. Right? Her head looks strange. It looks a little bit squashed, doesn't it?
Yeah, this one's head does look a bit weird. I think it's because of the like war paint or something between the eyes.
She's got a very thick neck as well. That's from all the weight training she's been involved with, probably. But I'm liking the female forms in this. They kind of, they're not all spindly and superhero-like. They're kind of realistic, and there's some junk in the trunk there. It's cool.
What do you think about this? Looks like reminiscent of Clash of the Titans, isn't it?
Yeah, it does.
With an eyeball.
Yeah, she's cool, man. They could have made 3 of them, and they could have been the 3 sort of witch seers, couldn't they?
This guy is a bit more kind of chaos default. I'm not so keen on this one.
Yeah, he looks like one of the blood reavers, right?
Yeah, it's just any kind of vaguely cornate chaos thing, you would expect to look a bit like that. So I'm not sure about that guy.
I
Rest
love
of
it.
them
So,
are cool.
Andy, maybe you or the guys in the audience could tell me, like, are these? Do they have their their own book, or do they have a section within the Chaos book that's Dark Oath? Could these be a separate faction in themselves? If so, I'd be interested. What's the score? Or are they counted as sort of marauders?
These ones look cool. If they did have a faction of purely mortal kind of barbarian chaos worshippers, you'd be all over that.
I'd be all over it, but you know that you're gonna lay out your Stormcast, and these guys are just not gonna be able to do anything against them, right? Because they're just gonna get either shot down or just Andy armor saved. Look at these; these look phenomenal. These are like, I mean, I'm tempted to get the box just for these guys. Hopefully, they'll come out separately, right? But you know, you might see the scenery in a bit, and that looks pretty cool. But yeah, these look phenomenal. Are you digging these, Andy?
I think these are much more appealing than the spider.
Yeah, man.
Kind of, it's a little bit back to basics, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not
Like,
quite so weird and out there.
I like fleshy models. I do like painting flesh, so that's partly why I like them. But
They've just taken a classic look, but they've made it with modern technology. So obviously, the ridiculous detail you get on GW models.
I like the painting of ethnicities as well. Great. You know, we can go down the rabbit hole with that. It doesn't have to be just black and white.
I think they're doing a
No.
better job of
Yeah.
creating miniatures that are designed specifically to be certain ethnicities as well. Because racial characteristics often aren't just skin pigmentation, are they?
No.
So, nice. What do you think of the
Yeah,
terrain in this set as well?
it looks like there's a heck of a lot of it, right? There's a lot of like this sort of
Well,
old woody stuff that's like kind of fun to paint and real quick to paint too.
if we look here, you can see everything that comes in the set. So they've set up a little battlefield there, and they haven't used all the terrain on it by the looks. So this is going to be one of the expensive boxes where you're paying for all that terrain, really. Miniatures in there don't make up much of the overall product.
No, I mean, I'm thinking, you know, when I bought the K-Knight Assassins, just them on their own as a separate box, cost me over £30. That did. So we get 2 factions in this box. So that's like 60 quid of value there. You're getting the game, and you're getting all this terrain. So you'd have to say it's probably going to cost more than £100, right?
Yes. Got to be one of those £125 boxes, hasn't it?
Yeah,
All
I
this
mean,
terrain in it.
if that terrain was a separate kit, that would be, going to say at least 40 quid, right? Maybe more. It's kind of cool. So what is it? It's like is it like some kind of pump mine? And it's like mining ore or something? Like, what is it?
Well, if it was up to me, they'd be mining lava for some reason.
I mean, you could use this for a dwarf terrain, couldn't they? They're always mining stuff. It looks probably a bit ramshackle for dwarven.
A bit pointy and evil, but if you maybe it's a dwarf mine that they're overseeing because they've got the hobgrots down there doing it instead.
There you go, man.
That would be nice.
I mean, this is a big release, right? This is awesome. People ain't happy. I think this is kind of cool.
So we're more about the barbarians than we are about the spider folk.
I think it's just weird. They've just brought the spider folk. It's like, what's their background? But I guess you could say that about all the initial Warcry bands. Like, we'd never heard of them before, right? You know, the Unmade and all those weird and wonderful ones. I like the Birdmen, personally.
I think, unfortunately, if you really like the aesthetic of any of these factions, Warcry, it's more likely to be along the Necromunda model, where you're never going to really see a full army of them. More just like individual gangs that won't be represented in full-scale battles in the other game system, probably.
No.
But you never know. If they sell, like, the proverbial hot cakes, and people just can't get enough of the Chaos Barbarians, then maybe they would dedicate some to that.
I think you may have to wait some time to get those barbarians separately. You know, just with the way things are happening at the minute. It won't. Maybe you have to wait till at least after New Year, right? Owen Lee says they're drilling for all in the Middle East. Will says they're mining Varanite, which is mutating realm stone from the All Points.
Well, there you go.
There you are. No, I've not played Warcry yet, Raph. But I've probably got a couple of 3 factions in there, but none of the Chaos ones.
Well, next.
I'd like to play.
So, what else have we got here? We've got an ogre. Bit of a piratey ogre. Carrying what looks like Caradron Overlord's rifle.
Oh, good idea.
Big sword. Nice ogre goodness. But there's more. It's not just a big ogre. Also, a monkey with a knife. Remember how the crab was the big selling point of the Deepkin warband? I think the monkey is what's selling this one.
Come on, that ogre's amazing. I'd love to see an optional head for that ogre with a piratey hat as an option. But yeah, this is the ogre pirate. I guess he's so tough. He doesn't need any more ogres in his warband, does he? He just needs a few minions.
No, once you start putting multiple ogres in there, it gets a bit over the top, doesn't it? Bird is pretty cool.
The bird's my least favourite thing. It might be cool if you painted it as a parrot. That could be cool.
Yeah, a bit more colour on it, I think. It's alright though, but for me, it's all about monkey.
Yeah, alright, yeah. That's kind of cool. Reminds me of like Indiana Jones, you know, that really annoying monkey that gets poisoned. But you've missed out the little grot there. Both grots. Because I think they're full of character.
Plenty of character going on with that one. That one's cool as well.
I mean, that one's amazing. I love him.
I think the bird is probably the weaker part of it. I just spotted the wooden leg on this one. Very nice.
Yeah.
But
it'd be nice if his leg was like in the mouth of the ogre or something, or in the mouth of the bird. Like it's took the grot's leg as a keepsake.
But come on, it's a monkey with a knife gripped with its tail.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't had a monkey faction, man. If you want to base something loosely off mythology and legend, you could look into Indian mythology, you know, Hindu mythology, and you get some wicked stuff out of that, right?
Cool. And a lot of text here, which I read, because I think we really play Underworlds or Warcry, so we're not going to spend a vast amount of time on them, other than saying it's a cool monkey. Next. So, there's a squig. Oh, and there's another collectible coin as well, which I'm sure you'll be thrilled to hear about. I know how much you love the collectible coins.
I think they're amazing.
You can really see the value in them, and you've never once questioned their purpose.
People get protective over their coins, man. I'm scratching my head. But there you go. But what's this squig? It's not. I thought I saw the red gobbo, but is it?
Well, let's see. The squig. Use any 10 pots, and the most expensive one will be absolutely free. That's not squig related. November's miniature of the month is taken from the vicious squig herd, Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and is filled with festive mushroom teeth, so it's not even new.
Okay. But there is a new squig model, Andy. I don't know if you've got that far yet.
The Red Gobbo Pick and Mix paint set. Oh, very exciting.
we're getting some Christmassy things, right? Do you think we'll get the Christmas box sets, right? Are they coming? Just start your own army ones.
Those, but we've got some Warhammer dice with the actual Warhammer logo on there. Nice readable looking dice, nice smooth edges. So they would get a thumb up from me based on that.
Okay. I didn't see this before. Looks all right. I wouldn't call it the pick of the month though. That's what they've called it.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
You've
Next.
not seen the red gobbo.
The red gobbo. I don't see the red gobbo on this.
It's the red gobbo, man. No, the actual red gobbo. I saw it this morning. It's like a collectible, festive red gobbo riding a squig.
Why am I not seeing that anymore?
Andy, you're behind. Look at this. This is a moment for history, guys. Andy is behind Remington in the hot gossip.
What do you think this is? Spider leg?
Well, it certainly looks that way. Or it could be kind of cockroach.
Could be like insectoid, couldn't it? So there's that. And since we've just looked at the rumour engine, how about we go straight into what the hell is that? So, in the current edition of What the Hell Is That, as you've seen in the last few episodes, slowly be zooming out of a miniature, and the first one to type in the name of it is the winner. So, let's just get you warmed up, get your brains in gear, with a bit of What the Hell Is That intro video, which everybody loves, obviously. Here we go.
What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it a chaos dwarf or a vampire bear? No, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? No, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it Sigmar's beard or Neferata's hat? What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it a mangled squig or a sorcerer's rat? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know.
And we are back. So, strap your eyeballs in, get your fingers ready to type, because we're about to very slowly start zooming out of a miniature the Age of Sigmar range. Here we go. Some quality zoom out.
Right, I've been looking at the red gobbo. I need to concentrate on Andy's. What the hell is that now? We've had no people comment so far. It looks a little bit scaly.
I think someone's going to get it pretty soon.
Is it armor? Is that a dwarven head carved into? Yes, it looks that way. Is it the giant pizza oven?
Get it pretty quick.
Is it armor or a shield or a banner? No, it's a belt. It looks like it's the belt of not a poxwalker, not a bonecast. Come on, you must have it. Someone's got to say you're going to win a special prize. Andy said. Gotcha.
There you go.
Thanks, Raph. Raph beats Brad and William and Paul just to the punch there. Well done, Raph. Back in business, my friend.
I was hoping someone would get it just from the gold scaly bit.
No, I mean, you know, I should know this because I've actually got the model built there, but I've not painted it yet, so I'm not intimately involved with Gotrek yet. But he's next up on the block for me.
Well, here's the Christmas red gobbo squig with antlers.
Brilliant. Look at that. It's phenomenal. Is it big enough to be like a squig? What do you call them? A squig a goblin boss, big boss on giant squig.
I don't know if it's quite big enough to be a boss on a giant squig. You got other like mini goblin bosses on lesser squig.
Yeah, they're called giant squig or great cave squig. They're called, I think.
Well, whatever you wanted to use this as long as it's on the right base size, I don't think anyone would complain, because look how cool it is.
Brad says he's not familiar with Dwarding crotch shots, so that'll explain that. Yeah, I love this miniature, man. It's so it's so cool, man. Love it. It's cute. It's full of character. It's just like that's that's a phenomenal model, man. That's like vintage GW for me.
There's the classic red gobbo there, back in the day.
Yeah, I like that too. I can't believe I didn't pick that up. There you go. Look, we've just been festooned with releases. All we got to do is zoom out, Andy. It's like look at the share price. Just zoom out. Don't get bothered by the day-to-day, week-to-week movements. Zoom out, and you'll see the full story. But I think people are just, they want too much too soon.
Very cool.
It's cool, man.
So it's time for. Hold on, I've got this. It's not a real Remington's Millions segment without the audio cue. Here we go.
Remington's Millions.
Okay, take it away. What are we looking at?
Okay, man. Well, you're looking at the year to date of Games Workshop share price. And do you know what, Andy? I'm going to have to forward you a few YouTubers who have suddenly out of nowhere began to talk about the Games Workshop share price, even though you and I have been talking about it for nigh on a year now, right? Now, a little while ago, I had quite a few shares in Games Workshop. As you know, I sold them last February, and then I couldn't resist and got back on the horse, and I bought 0.1 shares of Games Workshop. At the time, that was something, 0.1 shares would have been something like, I think, £9 worth. And that steadily went up in price. And you can see there's been some jagged fluctuations going on in the share price. And a couple of weeks ago, Andy, the unthinkable happened. Games Workshop shares just fell off a cliff. And it was a lot to do with the fact that they cut their dividend from 50p per share to 25p per share. And the reason for this is Games Workshop only give out truly surplus cash that they're not going to do anything with and pay it back to shareholders, right? So that got cut. So a lot of big shareholders maybe sold off a bunch of shares because at the time it was at an all-time high of something around £120. It had a bit of a dip and it dropped by, I'd say, 10%. And that's when Remington decided to get back in. A bit foolish, you might think.
So you think that the shareholders had a bit of a tantrum? They really wanted to do something with those 25p's and just decided, well, you know what? If you're cutting me from 50p to 25p, I'm out. You think that's how it went?
I don't think that's the only reason, because the dividends come 4 times a year each quarter. So if one quarter you didn't get as much, that's not the only reason. A few other reasons. One being a lot of people invested during the COVID pandemic thinking that Games Workshop was a lockdown hobby, and a lot of old school miniature fans got back into the hobby during the many days and nights back at home, right? And a lot of big investors who don't understand the hobby probably thought, yeah, I'm going to put this into something else now. So that was another reason. Then, of course, we had big problems with China. And as you know, a lot of Games Workshop stuff is maybe printed and done in China, although the majority of it is actually in the UK now, if I'm not mistaken. And then another reason was the supply constraints and fallout of Brexit as well. And those things compounded together, and fears over inflation and whatnot have just plummeted the stock. And so Remington was caught in no man's land, and suddenly I was down. But what did I do, Andy? Basically, I decided to double down on my Games Workshop position. So I now have 20 shares, and I brought down my average price, which you can see is the dotted line. It still looks like I'm quite a way off breaking even, but I'm happy with where we are. And if the share price drops lower, I'm going to buy more, because that's what you do when the share price falls off a cliff.
How many shares do you need before you could walk up to Games Workshop HQ, knock on the door, say, excuse me, I have this many shares, let me in, and they just let you wander freely around the premises?
Well,
so important.
Yeah, there's probably many millions of shares in issue. Because at one point last year, Games Workshop was valued at billions of pounds, and it was actually bigger than a lot of main high street names. So Games Workshop got a lot of news. Now, I want to just jump on to something else. And that's the fact that a lot of these YouTubers that are slagging off Games Workshop at the minute because they don't like Warhammer Plus and they don't like the fact that Warhammer likes to keep its own IP, as most major companies do like to do that. And they feel like they've been hard done by because they've been using Games Workshop content to feed their own channel stuff and make money from it because they're all monetized, all these channels, and they're all charging their own patron fees. And a lot of the time, those patrons cost more than what Warhammer Plus does. So when Warhammer Plus come out, right, it's like, oh no, people are going to actually go to the real deal rather than my Patreon. So I'm talking about channels like Spiky Bits that have just gone on a big rampage. And now these channels claim that they are responsible for the big share price drop. And although there was a big investor that pulled out of Games Workshop recently, and they cited supply constraint problems in the short term, because I think this will be sorted out within a few months, to be honest. And the other reason is that noticeable discontent amongst fans. So it has been noticed, it's true. But I really think that, these channels really, they got a lot to answer for now. But that's just my 2 pence worth. You don't have to agree with me. I think it's nice to hear both sides of an argument, though. And there's been a huge, a small but vocal rabble out there that don't like anything Games Workshop do. So why even talk about it? Why make that a part of your channel? So they obviously need it because that's what draws in the views. But if they hate the company so much, then just do one and don't talk about it. Do something else.
Well, specifically Spiky Bits, I'm not really a big follower, but Colin has just said Spiky Bits is okay in the comments, which is probably the nicest thing I've ever heard anyone say about them, which should tell you a bit. But I'm sure that the clicks are going through the roof whenever there's outrage caused. So it's obvious why channels jump on all this.
Listen, when I go on Spiky Bits on my phone, I'm inundated with adverts for random things that come up, and it's really irritating. And you can't tell me that site isn't just in it for the money, and it's making money off other people's IPs. So if those companies at some point want to protect their IP and don't want to give it away for free to people making money off it, can't people understand that that's what any company would do, right? And so the people producing this content suddenly feel like, how dare you tell me I can't make content about your company and make money from it? It's like, what? Have I gone too far here?
I don't know.
I still love you guys. Don't worry.
I don't think people think you've gone too far, because specifically Spiky Bits aren't exactly wildly popular, so I don't think you're going to be ruffling too many feathers if you're bad-mouthing them.
No. But thing is, I have a bit of history with this because about 20 years ago, I wanted to put an EP out, and it was like a best of Leicester. So it was bands and artists from Leicester, and it was I got involved with the local newspaper, and they agreed to help fund the release of this a music CD, right? And it would come free in every copy of a newspaper on a certain day. So it would help the local music community out. But in hindsight, like an idiot, on the front cover, I decided to use some Marvel artwork from an old comic in the 1980s, and obviously change all the wording and stuff. But it was really obvious that it was like a Marvel piece of art. And the Leicester Mercury says, "Look, you need permission from Marvel to have that on your cover." And I got all annoyed and everything. I thought, well, who cares and whatnot. In the end, I wrote to Marvel, and a lawyer got back in touch with me. And this is before the Marvel franchise of movies, by the way. But it was obviously something that they were planning. Okay, and Marvel wasn't nowhere near as what it is now. Back then, it was literally just the comics, right, and a few animations. And the lawyer wrote to me and said, under no circumstances can you use our artwork without express permission. And I said, okay, respect that. Can I have permission then? And then they went, no. So that I kind of got shut down, and I was really annoyed at the time. But I can totally see why in hindsight, and I've been saying that I think Games Workshop is on the cusp of even bigger things, you know. And Warhammer Plus is just in its very early stages. So, you're knocking something before it's even had a chance to run, right? And they may be slow on content, but look, they've just given away 2 weeks free. All right, then they've given away £10 free voucher. Then they've said, right, you can have this free model. So if you add those together, that comes to something like £30-40, which is almost like 6 months worth of free content. So therefore, for the whole year, you're only paying £2.50 a week, which is probably a lot less than the Patreon charge that these disgruntled wargamers are charging for their own Patreons.
I've had no issue so far with the price of Warhammer Plus and the content. I've had an issue with the lack of variety in some of the content and how some of it's been a bit late to the dance. I would like to see more AOS stuff on there. But in general, it's not expensive. I did watch the Nagash Lawmasters video, the Lawmasters series, which we've criticised for not quite living up to what it could be. It's a little bit on the cheap. It's just a guy standing there talking while they have like slowly zooming out images of whichever character they're talking about from existing artwork. They could do a bit more with it, but I actually enjoyed that one. I think it was 26 minutes long, and because I haven't read a lot of the fluff, a lot of the backstory and books that I've had, it's interesting to hear all about Nagash. It went through, chronicled all the way through from the old world till where he is now, and I think had they been doing content like this for a long time, I would have been way more interested in the whole world, the old world and the mortal realms. I think if they'd launched this kind of thing with Age of Sigmar to kind of bridge that gap, specifically like a Nagash video, just exactly like this one, but telling you how he transferred from the old world into the new, that would have been really interesting to me, and that would have probably engrossed me more in it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think they could certainly do that. There's so much lore they could delve into. I mean, obviously they're focusing on more recent lore because it ties in with the model line and the storyline they've got at the moment. But going deeper down the rabbit hole, at some point they could certainly, retell the stories of the old world as new content. It could be fun. I mean, I see you still got the share price thing up there still, Andy. I don't know. If this sort of thing interests you, I'm not saying it should, and it's not financial advice, but it might be a good time to think about, getting in when everything's going to pop. That's the best time to invest. I got too carried away with Warhammer Plus, thinking it was going to be a catalyst for something big. I was probably just a bit too early with that and should have waited. But there you go. I'm a patient man. I will wait for my fortunes to change with that. There you go. Oh, here's some new models I painted.
Yes, Remington's Paint Corner. We need a little jingle for that as well, don't we? So, this would be the Beast Skewer Killbow by any chance?
That is the Beast Skewer Killbow, Andy. And let me just, go through some of the stats of this. And I think you might feel a bit of trepidation when you're bringing in your big Gribblies, next battle. Because if I want to do an aimed shot, it's got a 24. Look at this. He's doing the close-up thing again. And actually, it doesn't look too bad.
Yeah, the rust actually looks quite good on the close-up.
This is actually quite it's quite a hard model to put together, if I'm honest with you. But I tried to paint as much of it as I could before assembling it, and that did help. 24-inch range. I've got one attack, right? But it's a 2+ to hit, right? 3+ to wound, -2 rend, and what's the sort of damage here? Well, to determine the damage characteristics from an attack made from the Beast Skewer bolts, roll a number of dice equal to the wounds characteristic of the target unit. So let's say I'm shooting your Star Drake, and your Star Drake has got, 14 wounds?
16 wounds.
16 wounds. That means I roll Well, up to a maximum damage of 12. So I'm going to roll 12 dice.
I think you'd probably roll the 16 dice, but then if you succeeded with more than 12, it would just cap at 12.
Well, okay, so I'm going to roll 12 dice in that case, and for each 5 up, it's 2 damage, 3 damage. No, the damage characteristic is equal to 2 plus 1 for each roll of 5 up.
Yeah, so it starts off at 2 just by default, and then all the rest of it is determined by how many 5 pluses you can roll on those dice.
Flippin' heck.
So it caps at 12.
Wow.
So if you're shooting something like a Mega Gargant, you're very likely to get 12.
Got you.
Because of
you.
how
So
many...
it can do serious damage, but our experience with these sort of let's call them siege weapons, right, is that you often roll a 1 when you're trying to hit, don't you?
Well, I've had that whenever I've rolled the special once per game attack that does 6 damage instead of 1. That's always the one that rolls a 1 to hit.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, maybe you want 2 of these really to sort of make sure one of them at least hits.
They're scary as well, though. People wouldn't want to park a big monster in front of 2 or 3 of these.
No, and you've got some hasty shots where it's only got a range of 12, but that's 4 plus to hit, so that's rubbish really. 50% chance to hit, 3 up to wound. Yeah. So why would you ever want to do a hasty shot? I'm not sure.
Don't you have to do a hasty shot if the enemy is too close or something?
Right, yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so I think -2 rend as well, which is pretty good, because if I've got a big monster that's being shot at by this thing, then I'm going to be probably putting all-out defense on it and giving it a save.
Yeah.
So reducing that to only 50% chance of making the save if you've got more than one of these shooting.
Yeah, if you've moved, you can't do an aimed shot either. So
There you go.
there's that.
But you
Yeah,
don't need to move that
24-inch,
much with
right?
24-inch range on the new board size.
No, but I imagine you'll be, if you saw this on the battlefield, you'll be zapping some people down near it to kind of get it out of the way as quickly as possible.
I would hope to, so you would have to deploy so that I couldn't just drop anyone down next to it, wouldn't you?
No, it's got 5 wounds. Yeah. 3 attacks in combat with the crew, 4 up, 1 damage. So yeah. So this is the finish. I think you might have debuted this last week, but yeah, that one's done now.
So
Happy
is
with that one.
this is your, what's it called, the sludge crawler or something?
It's called Swamp. It's Swamp Boss Scumdrek. That's Swamp Boss Scumdrek, and I went to Pets at Home and found some aqua scenery. So I've stuck a bit of that on his head, and I've been using it as scenery recently.
On
I
his
think
head?
it looks all right. Yeah, I put it on his head to make him look like a sort of a chieftain. You might get a better view with a different picture. But I would have liked to have put some corpses in those cages. But yeah, there you go. There's Andy's close up.
Oh yeah, we can see them on his head there. Yeah, that looks pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, like a headdress kind of vibe. But my favourite model is the what's his face, the Breaker boss on the Maya Brute Troggoth. He looks wicked, man. Love
The
painting that one.
belly plate is probably the thing there.
Yeah, I like the colour of the troll I've painted there. Happy with that. And then finally I managed to paint all the gut rippers that I had, which was only 10. But it did seem to take quite a long time to paint those. And then I found out I'd probably need some more. So yeah, but on that note, the Games Workshop also released Dominion at a cheaper price for a short time, haven't they?
I've seen
If you
people
noticed
selling
that.
off Dominion at a lower price all over the place. I think after the uproar of previous starter boxes that just sold out in 2 seconds, they made 1 billion of these. And there's still some left.
Yeah, but they would have, wouldn't they? Because it's a new version of Age of Sigmar, isn't it? So you have to have your flagship box set available, right?
Yeah, but with other game systems, they've sold out really quickly of the big starter box.
Right.
The 40k one that they did last sold out very, very rapidly. So
Right.
they
Well,
must have just learned from their mistakes and made 1 trillion of them.
I can't remember
that's
what
why
the
there's still some left.
I can't remember what the retail price was when it first came out. Was it over £100? But
I think most things are about 125 when they come out now.
So you can get it now at Games Workshop for £87.50. So that's like 30% off. It's pretty good. I mean, Games Workshop are not known for doing any kind of discounts, so this is kind of a new thing.
Well, they were selling the Stormcast and the Cruel Boys sides of it separately at Warhammer World for about £40 each, I think.
That's right.
So it's pretty good. The rest of the stuff you get in there, big rule book.
I mean, I just want 10 more of these Cruel Boys, but the new ones that are coming out with axes and swords, they're like 30 quid for 10. So I think I'll just try and get 10 of these spear ones if I can, and then I'm good. Or maybe 3 more Bolter Boys.
And what is this doing here?
Well, some of you old schoolers might recognise this war boss on a wyvern, or points and possibly prizes for anyone that can tell me what was the name of this original model. Maybe you remember, Andy. It has featured in a couple of our games in the past.
Was this the remake of Azhag the Slaughterer by any chance?
Yes, it is. This is a Finecast model. Actually, when this come out, I think it was like something like 55 quid. But yeah, I really enjoyed painting this model, and I don't want to sell it. I don't want to store it away. I think this one is a perfect replacement for a killer boss on a Corpse Ripper Vulture, right? So I'm thinking of getting the big Vulture model, Gobsprack, right? The big the famous shaman on the big Vulture, and as an optional, big centerpiece, why not you reuse Azhag as a killer boss on a corpse?
Why not?
On the right
Are you
size
going to maybe meddle a bit with the base so it matches the rest of the army?
Yeah, I might put some little marsh tufts on there. Army painted marsh tufts. Yeah, for sure. No problem. So, I'm getting, I'll be including that one and a little bit more battle line.
Have you seen how many points you've got yet? Because remember, you can use one of the sub-factions, can't remember what it's called, that allows you to take the crossbow orcs as battle line. So you could put out a legal table-ready force.
I would still, as for 2,000 points, I just need one more battle line then.
Do you have 2,000 points worth of stuff now?
No, just shy of it. Just shy of it with this guy. But if I get that extra battle line, then, with some spells and whatnot, I could do, there's also Manok the Cunning, who's a little warband, right, from the new Shadespire, is it? Yeah, new Shadespire box set that's come out. That's that's new too, right? So if I can pick up them separately, I will.
This last picture that's on the Andy and Rim Show Discord server by Cedar, who has obviously been painting the very colourful Stormcast, been admiring over the last few weeks. And here is a Stormcast character accompanied by a couple of what appear to be halflings.
They are, what are they called? They're ratlings, aren't they?
They look like ratlings.
They're wicked, man.
But they definitely match with the colours, don't they?
Are they the ratlings you get in Blackstone Fortress?
They could well be, because they do look new.
Yeah, wicked models, man. The Blackstone Fortress models were really, really good. They're really good. I was so tempted by that. I still need to finish my Cursed City stuff.
William says picks up the Underworld Warband on eBay for £27.
Oh, all right, nice, man. Is he happy with it? You happy with it, mate? What are you saying? Is it worth me getting them just to confuse Andy with all my minimum strength units?
The Caradron Overlords Warband purchase that I made just to get the Chemist. This one. Because on his own, a Chemist who's in a less dynamic pose than that costs £17. But the set only costs £15 with 5 Overlords in it, including him. So he's a much cooler model than the other one. So I'm very
Yeah.
happy with that purchase, but that had to be direct through Games Workshop.
I mean, speaking of prices, Andy, speaking of things like inflation, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of a price hike that happens pretty soon.
You have mentioned that previously. So
Yeah.
what's your prediction then? What kind of numbers are you thinking?
I think if something, this is purely speculation on my behalf, right? Don't know for sure, but if something's £30 retail now, you might see that go up to £32, £33. You know, fortunately, that's what's going to happen. I mean, I'm sure like Annie will be able to tell you. You know, maybe her shipping costs may be going up. But what do you do if you own a company? What do you do? You have to. What happens is they pass that cost down to the customers, don't they?
You either pass on the cost, take the hit, or find a way around it, don't you?
Yeah. So what do? You find a way around it. Maybe you say spend over £50 and you get free shipping. You could do it like that, I guess, right?
Well, certain companies are going to be big enough so that they can have their distribution in other countries, so they'll miss out on some of the issues that way.
Yeah.
Obviously, not an option for smaller companies.
Yeah. So what's your verdict on Warhammer Day? What do you think?
I wasn't exactly overwhelmed with excitement by any of it. Some of it's just cool. There isn't anything that immediately grabbed me and made my wallet leap out of my pocket, which is what you hope for.
Yeah, but it is hard for you to get your wallet out at all, isn't it? It's covered in cobwebs.
It usually is, and it took the Warhammer Plus £10 voucher for me to get Mr. Bastion Car Wash, as I'm calling him.
I picked up the Beast Skewer bulb thing for basically £10 with the voucher, and you probably did the same with that one, right?
Indeed. The other thing I'm looking at in the Stormcast range ad, because obviously everyone's going to want one of the massive dragons out. So I would have to obviously wait for the right time to get one of those. And I've been eyeing up like Chariot, the Knight Judicator with the Gryph-hound bow, and new Annihilators, and all the other new units that are coming out. Really tempted by those Annihilators with the massive hammers. To admit, because you know how much I like my Retributors coming down with their gigantic hammers, and the Annihilators, their hammers bigger.
I love those guys if I've got a magic spell that can kill them all in one go.
Yes, when you just drop mortal wound bombs on them, they're not very survivable.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Well, okay, so next the next battle tome. I mean, I know they're just bringing this, but where do you see the next one coming? I've heard the chaos. There might be a chaos one that's been promised. What do you think? The next one?
A lot of the whispers I've heard about Beasts of Chaos getting some attention. Be nice as a Beastman enthusiast like you. You'd appreciate that.
Yep. Yeah, can't see that happening personally.
Apart from that, but at least it's not going to be Stormcast for a while. You only have to put up with Stormcast releases for another month or two now.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be shocked if they bring out any more Stormcast releases in the near future, right? Because
surely they've got to have a couple of years off now for all this.
They just released a book, a whole new line of models, and then they've just put out the cards for them all, right?
You could
any new release you're not going to have cards for, and they're not going to be in the battle tome.
You could attend a tournament. There could be like 10 players there, all playing Stormcast, and none of them have any of the same models.
Yeah,
you could theoretically witness that.
I don't think I've seen any like battle reports on YouTube where it's Stormcast v Stormcast. Have you? I mean, it's bound to happen.
Probably some out there. I don't remember seeing too many of them.
No, I mean, you might find if they bring new models out, there might be different versions of the same thing. So alternative liberators, right? Or
Well, sometimes it seems like a new unit is designed to kind of not exactly replace, but it's just slightly better than the thing that came before it.
Yeah.
And at the moment, it seems like some of the Soul Wars Stormcast are being nudged out, what I've heard. So some of them have dropped a bit in, compared to some of the newer stuff. Liberators apparently aren't too terrible currently. That's nice. The original Stormcast unit, the first thing we ever saw, still.
So can you see
viable.
those like original Stormcast models being highly sought after at any point in time?
Highly sought after, I don't think so. I think it's a different time, isn't it? And there's a bit of charm to some of the old ranges of miniatures that isn't really present in more recent years. I think if you look back to like the hand sculpted feel before the internet, so everything had a bit more mystique about it as well. I don't know if you'll see in 10 or 20 years people being too nostalgic and spending tons of money to get the Stormcast Liberators. I'm not sure that'll happen.
No. Yeah, I mean, I think things are just going to be kind of like a bit drawn out now for the next few months. Hopefully we'll get these Christmas battle boxes, but I don't know. I don't feel like I need oak, right? But, you know, I love those barbarians, gotta say.
Well, I've got a ton of stuff to be working on. I've got obviously all these, let's pick these colourful Paradrons that are almost to the stage where I can put washes on them and they start to look like real soldiers in the army, rather than just like action figures, which is how they look when you just have base coats on them. Then I've got a couple of World War II Soviet tanks with bad Squiddo tank commanders poking out the top. I've got a ton of more Stormcast that I'm not prioritising at the moment because I've got so many already. I can only prioritise the ones that are actually going to make a difference to the army. So after I finish these Overlords, I'll probably have a cheeky go at Bastion, because he would actually make an impact just being added on his own. Not too much work required with him. Then I've got my Kings of War Night Stalkers, where I haven't got many units yet. They're not actually going to take a ridiculous amount of time to paint once I get into them, because they're kind of mostly just purpley. So not a whole lot going on colour variety wise with them. Got a load of Walking Dead stuff here as well. I've got more Kings of War, Abyssal Dwarves and Goblins sitting around. It's just an endless tide of unpainted stuff, but I'm not in like a death spiral misery.
No.
Currently kind of in the zone, just plowing through it all. So as long as that continues, I'm pretty confident that I'm going to clear it all out.
Andy, speaking of dwarves, and now they've reintroduced hobgoblins as hobgrots. Can you see Chaos Dwarves are coming back round?
Yes.
And if so, is it something that interests you?
Theoretically, it would be, because I've always been a dwarf fan.
Yeah.
And
you've got an Abyssal Dwarf Kings of War army.
I've got a large Kings of War Abyssal Dwarf army. So it would have to be sufficiently different from that, I think. I'd be interested to see which way they go with it, because they haven't done a modern plastic style Chaos Dwarves yet. They're all Forge World. So they could completely change the aesthetic. So I'm going to have to wait and see on that and reserve judgment. But obviously, any dwarves are quite likely to appeal to me.
Wouldn't it be cool if they brought back the big hats?
If they restyled the big hats so they looked a bit less silly, I could see them doing that. I wouldn't mind if they looked silly, but that's not the way they do things now, is it? If you think about when they remade Nagash, they retained everything about him that made him familiar, and you could immediately tell it was Nagash, but it just didn't look silly anymore. They made the proportions a bit more believable, and they could do something like that. Whoever redesigned Nagash, they get that person on redesigning Chaos Dwarf hats, and I think they'll be all right.
I think they will be really magic-y, because dwarves aren't very magic-y, are they? And the Caldron Overlords certainly don't have magic. And yeah, normal dwarves don't.
Do you think they'll all be about the evil sorcerers on giant monsters?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, or automatons, as well as like hobgoblin slaves. Could be good. Who knows though? We've been wrong many times, so
you have definitely. So let's get the episode thumbnail up. It's time to wrap up this episode, I think. Thanks to everyone who's joined us. We've had quite a active chat window running this episode, which is nice to see, and plenty of likes rolling in. Good to see that as well. Don't forget, you can subscribe to Remington's channel as well. Links in the description if you want to see a video once every couple of years or so. Or maybe if you nag him, you can get another pillow talk soon. Or if you want him to maybe launch Remington's Financial Tips YouTube channel.
I might do Remington's Rants.
Remington's Rants. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, that could work. We need some more. We need some more pictures of our faces looking like horrified and surprised.
Yeah, we need some more updated pictures, don't we? I've been squeezing a lot of mileage out of these two variants that we've got so far.
Yeah, I'm going to send you some more. I think. How about that?
Everybody, I'm working on more guests for the show as well. So that's going to keep things spicy. The goal is to have a different guest like every other week. So we'll see whether that's achievable with time.
Nice. If you've got any suggestions, guys, let us know.
Yeah, drop them in the comments if you want to suggest any guests, preferably in the comments after the show, so I can go back and look at them rather than in the chat. And
did your guests from last week, did they enjoy the show? Didn't really get back to you about that.
Yes, it was a very enjoyable experience for all concerned.
Fantastic.
Yes, so everybody, don't forget to check out all the links in the description, especially, obviously, throw loads of money at me so I can keep this channel afloat these dark and turbulent times throughout the world. That I can continue to provide this beacon of light with Mr. Remington, shining our torches out there into the mist to guide you into the promised wargaming. Any words this week, Mr. Remington?
No, it's just been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, for a Warhammer day that was apparently thin on the ground, it filled up our show full of content. So I don't even know if we covered everything that they revealed, so it's kind of cool.
And for anyone interested in the other content that you get on this channel, I have received my Dead Zone version 3 rulebook, so I'll be diving into that, and I'm actually playing my first game of Dead Zone version 3 tomorrow. So I'll do a video on that at some point with my thoughts on the new. I've got some Kings of War games lined up over the next couple of weeks. There'll be plenty of battle reports there as well. And stay tuned. I think on that note, all that remains to be said is good night out there, whatever you are.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about